Mr. Salauddin, I should come to you first, because you have been such a vocal critic of app-based services, not because they're not providing ease of service, not because they have made our lives easier, but simply because you believe that they're not giving workers the due that they deserve. Would you like to first tell us about your take on gig economy as a whole? Is it an equitable place?
Thank you so much, first of all. Last 10 years, we can see the platform economy is raising, right? Gig digital economy also raising. But workers specifically, the platform who was doing the work, like driver, delivery boy, and urban company workers, the pace will be down. This is one thing. And another thing, the platform companies raising every, IPOs, like, developed from the financially resources also, and company CEOs salaries also raising. But workers' salaries and pays dues should be very low every day and every month. This is a very big challenge. Now, recently nowadays, you impact on 25th and 31st strike after that. The CEOs, how to attack from the, the platform, the social media platforms comes to out, the whole things, the data transparency, algorithm transparency, and everything, the wantings from outside of the stomach. Because those all are last 10 years, the platform companies has using the workers and workers' blood and workers' soul. The platform companies, once the set right and use the platform workers and know the giving the whatever the social security benefits, the outside of the scale. Because multiple states now doing the platform, giving the some social security like Karnataka, Telangana, Jharkhand, Bihar. Those states come forward to give at least from legislation, social security and welfare. But platform companies not giving the data from the state governments to access the schemes. This is the biggest challenge. This all thing in our mind, that's why we are fight to platform companies. We are not anti any platform companies, okay? But we are try to sit together. We have to finding the facts. We have to workers' welfare who daily, the come on the streets without any life guarantee. जब घर से निकला तो फिर जब घर को जा रहा तो उसका कोई गारंटी नहीं है, इंसान की कोई वो नहीं है, एंड डिग्निटी ऑफ उसकी कोई वैल्यू नहीं है, उसकी वैल्यू को जोड़ना चाहिए. बट ये चीज़ के ऊपर वी आर नॉट द प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनीज बैक टू वेयर वी आर आस्किंग, एंड स्टेट गवर्नमेंट द रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टू access these all schemes and dignity from the workers, these gig and platform workers. That's where we have to journey will started last 10 years. We have to fight back to back state governments, central governments, and asking the platform companies. Now some little bit fruits, hanging fruits will be some states and centrals. Let's see how to in upcoming days these all things are going. But 5 states we have to move forward from proper one legislation. The need of workers कि उनको एक कानून के दायरे में लाना चाहिए, उनको एक एल्गोरिथम का ट्रांसपेरेंसी, डेटा ट्रांसपेरेंसी, ग्रीवेंस मैकेनिज्म ट्रांसपेरेंसी, ID block, the multiple IDs every day, thousands of IDs will be blocked, like drivers, delivery boys, urban company, home-based workers. Women specifically in this field, urban company workers, he is paying 50,000 rupees from beautician kit. He is purchasing from the platform company. Within 1 month, you have to ID should be blocked immediately. Who can take the responsibility? How that 50,000 rupees, those women to take the hand loans, whatever the some family, sometimes will be gold also, take the small loans, micro loans also. How to pay? This type of, without any due process, ID should block, these things we have to fight to state governments and central governments from platform companies. Recently, the social media told them, some CEO, Zomato CEO, how to IDs will be blocked. In our own words is telling, every day, every month, 5,000 IDs should be your block. तो रोजगार कहाँ पे दे रहे भाई? You are said by हम रोजगार पैदा कर रहे, देश के जो अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट है उनके लिए एम्प्लॉयमेंट क्रिएट कर रहे. दैट इज़ द मॉडल फ्रॉम द टेक टू स्टैंड विद द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स एंड सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट. सेंट्रल स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स को यही बताया जा रहा है कि हम रोज़गार तैयार कर रहे हैं. अगर जब आप रोज़गार तैयार कर रहे तो सरकार क्या कर रही? सरकार बोल रही कि हम रोज़गार दे रहे जो बेरोज़गार है. तो कौन दे रहा बेरोज़गार? आप दे रहे या उन्होंने दे रहे? तो क्लैरिटी होना चाहिए. दिस इज़ द द वन टाइम द प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनीज वेरी द एल्गोरिथम कंट्रोल शुड बी वर्कर्स. दिस इज़ वेरी डेंजरस. मेरा गाड़ी है, मेरा पेट्रोल है, मेरा खून पसीना चल रहा, और आप वहाँ पे बैठ के बोर्ड रूम पे बैठ के एल्गोरिथम को डिज़ाइन करा रहे कि मेरे को राइड मिलना चाहिए या नहीं मिलना चाहिए, डिलीवरी मेरे को मिलना चाहिए नहीं मिलना चाहिए. दिस इज़ द पेन ऑफ वर्कर्स. आप कौन है? यू आर द ब्रोकर. यू आर सेड द मल्टीपल प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैज सेड वी आर द पार्टनर्स. अब तो पार्टनर का दर्जा दिया ही नहीं. फिर बोलते जब बात हिस्सेदारी की आ गई, जब बात कहीं पॉलिसी पे आ गई, you are simply saying we are we are service providers. You are a service provider. Give the clarity.
There are some issues that you have raised which we will get into when we continue. You have spoken about how there is not equal access, especially when it comes to digital presence.
Yes.
When it, compared to the companies versus the workers. You've spoken about transparency or rather the lack of transparency when it comes to algorithms, etc. Security concerns is something else you have raised. We'll come back to all of these debates, but let me first go to Nitin Pai. What I would like to understand from you, Nitin, first is when a government decides it is going to come up with a law, with an act, from a free market perspective, do you look at it as regulation or curtailing the spirit of free market?
Yeah, so I'm not defending free markets or capitalism, communism. I don't want to be in any of these boxes. As a student of science, we just go where evidence goes, and only to the extent that evidence goes. And I think Priyank Kharge also mentioned that. Now, my day job is not to look at gig economy or labor economics, right? My day job is largely to look at national security and defense. And when you look at strategy, for the last 20 years, roughly, every single neighboring state of India, neighboring country of India, has suffered one similar security challenge. Large groups of young men, bare bones literate, right? Bare amount of education, bare amount of schooling, with sense of grievance, ganging around with, there are a number of extremist ideologies, it's not ideology, is not one, it's not one type, gang around together and get more and more acculturalized to political violence. We have seen this in Sri Lanka. Pakistan is the biggest example. You've seen this in Sri Lanka, you've seen this in Bangladesh, you've seen this in Nepal, you've seen this in even in parts of China. Yet in India, you have not seen the same kind of political expression, right? Why is it? So the puzzle is, why is it the national security of every one of India's neighbors was challenged by young people who are barely educated but getting into violence, but not India? The answer is one simple thing, is that we've enjoyed levels of economic growth, 5%, 6%, depending on which government you want to ask, 5%, some people say 5, some 7, 8, that's not the point. You've had high levels of economic growth in India for the last 20, 25 years. Like it or not, that has allowed a lot of number of people to be employed. Not just that, one of the questions people ask, and I think Manu Joseph also has a book called Why Don't the Poor Kill Us, right? If you go to Mumbai, you see this right in front of you, right? There's a huge skyscraper, and then there are low-income housing around the skyscraper. Why is it that they don't rise and kill the rich people, right? It's not because the Indians in general see that difference is structural. Most people in Mumbai, and now most people in Bangalore who come to Bangalore, come with the idea that there is an escalator, there is a ladder which they can get on, and slowly, maybe not as fast as everybody else, they'll be able to process in life, right? The combination of economic growth and the hope that your life can be better by being part of this design, that aspiration is causing both some level of social stability in the country and allowing certain political parties to take advantage of it. Because there are a couple of, one set of political parties believe that this is not happening and they're losing elections. Another set of political parties are capitalizing on this and winning elections, right? In my simple view, that there is an electoral evidence of this also. So, my response to this as a national security guy is I don't really understand all the complicated things which are happening in the Indian economy. But I do know that economic growth and this correlation, economic growth and social stability aspirated correlation is there, and I want to keep it going. I don't want to mess around with something which I don't understand, right? By saying, okay, I'm going to tweak this, tweak that. I just don't know why it happens. Complex systems are like that, you don't know. That's number one. Now let's look at the scale of this problem. Few years ago, this is about 8 years ago, we were trying to find out what is the required run rate to employ people in India. Okay, this is like cricket, okay? There's a required run rate and there is a current scoring rate. The required run rate is you need to create 20 million jobs in India every year. Okay, that's the population of Australia. Okay, that's the population of Mumbai. You have to create jobs for an entire Australia in 1 year. You have to create jobs for entire Mumbai in 1 year. And you have to do this continuously from 2010 onwards. Okay? That's your 20 million is your, you can say, some people will say 15, some people will say 25. So now latest Neelkant Mishra says 30 million per year. Doesn't matter, okay? 15 to 30 is your range. That is your required run rate. What's the best scoring rate? If you talk to the government, the union government, they'll say, oh, we are doing 5 million per year, 7 million per year. But if you talk to other people, you say, look, you're barely doing 2 million people per year. You need 10 times more job opportunities for people to enjoy a decent life. Where are these jobs going to come from? And we've been, and those of you who are turning 18 and 21, you'll be in the job market soon. You'll need jobs, right? So unless you're able to create jobs at the rate of 20 million a year, which is 10 times more than we are creating today, right? You're going to have a big problem ahead of you in the next 5 to 10 years. And we've seen the effect of this problem. So again, I come back to saying, so what do we need to do? Of course, government is in denial. I think a lot of people in the union government have started, giving you all sort of statistics instead of accepting the fact that this is the scale of the problem and we've got to solve it. So where are the jobs coming from? You could say, go to Bangalore, you do IT industry. I mean, how many people work in the IT industry? I don't know, 2 million people at best, and not that many more, right? Although they create a vastly large amount of output in terms of monetary levels, but the number of people employed is small. You don't have much of manufacturing, and I'll come to that. Why? Why don't you have manufacturing? And now the only things which are left are service economies. And in service economies, what is the kind of a job that can employ this person who's basically barely educated, 10th grade, 12th standard pass, right? Has a phone, is literate, is willing to work hard. What's the kind of jobs? There are just a handful number of these jobs available, and gig is one of them, right? So again, my point is, something is working here, don't mess with it. Before I end, why do you think we have bad manufacturing? 15 years ago, I used to work for a foreign government, and I met one person from China, he's a businessman from China, and he said that I run a small, medium-sized manufacturing entity in China. I said, oh, okay, so how many people do you employ? He said, 50,000. 50,000 in one factory. Oh, I said, 50,000, that's pretty large. He says 50,000 in one shift, and we do 3 shifts a day. So it's 150,000 people, right? And he's a medium-sized guy. It's not a surprise that the Chinese, that many people were able to make a life living out of manufacturing and come out of poverty. Our manufacturing was stuck because there was a small bunch of people who had power over the labor laws, labor unions, and they prevented large-scale manufacturing coming out. Now this is controversial, but I'm sure he will see, right? When they were starting off, the people who were blocking gig workers from coming in were the old-style unions, right? So it's not to say, this is natural. I'm not saying that they are bad people, right? This is the way a union established union will work, right? Old style unions that no, you can't hire people, you can't fire people, you can't do this. There are lots of companies in Karnataka who can't close down because the labor laws don't allow them to close down. So there's a massive amount of crisis we've seen in manufacturing. India missed the manufacturing bus because we got seduced by certain kinds of labor protections which held us back. Now, I'm sure there are lots of people here who will disagree with the view on unions. I like unions. There are good things that unions can do and must do. But one of the things which union hold back is hold back on the growth of employment. Okay, I'll just end with one thing. Looking at the audience here, I don't think many of you have had the joy of being unemployed. How many of you have ever been unemployed here, even for a day? I have been unemployed. Okay? I have been unemployed. And I'll tell you, being unemployed without having recourse to, money, your wages, it's not just a deprivation of money. It's a deprivation of a kind of psychological status that you cannot imagine unless you've been unemployed. So if you say that, I'm going to do these gig economy regulations and we're going to get in the government to say who can be fired, who can be hired, and because of which, let's say 10% of the people who might otherwise have been employed are now unemployed. Imagine their life, right? So it's not, this idea that, we get the government and the government will wave a magic wand and all these problems which, Shaik. Yeah, Shaik mentioned, all these problems will go away. It's nice to imagine that. But it's a way like saying you drop a stone on your toe and you say, oh ma, you call your mother. It's the same thing about government. Any problem comes, so you call government. No, the government is not going to solve these problems for you. There are other ways you have to look at to solve these problems. If you go to the government will create a law, and the law will create an inspector, and you have to deal with this inspector for the rest of your life, right? And my generation has seen what that has done. We're in a process of deregulation. So let us try to keep the government and regulations out. Let us find a way to solve these genuine problems. I agree with anything which he says. These are genuine problems. Even as a consumer, I'm disempowered against the gig platforms, right? The gig platforms are stronger. I have no voice. If your Swiggy delivery is late, try to contact help and see. It doesn't happen. But the answer is not to get the government inside. Because once you get the government inside, you get an entirely different set of problems. And I think, again, he gave you the example of many states which have done certain regulations. What's the employment being created in those states? Right? Before I end this, okay, just remember this. A lot of people have created indices and say the most livable city in India is Meerut, or some place, all wonderful places. These are the best living conditions, or these are the best places to live in India. If that is true, why is it that all the people are coming to Bangalore? Right? Though these people are not stupid, right? So they're coming here because they know that this place offers you a better way to live. So let's recognize that, right? There are certain reasons why it's a better place to live. Let us recognize that and let's keep it that way. Let's not import bad ideas from places which have not done so well, hoping that this is going to solve our problems. And
also people who come never leave.
People who come to Bangalore, all of us are migrants in one way or the other, right? But what I'm saying is that, look, people are voting with their feet. Whether it's coming to Bangalore or whether it's joining the gig economy, people are voting with their feet. They are not stupid, right? If they were stupid, if they were stupid, they'd say, look, gig economy is not a safe job for me. They wouldn't do that job, right? How many people go and work in mines? Very few people do, because they know it's a dangerous job, right? But gig economy people come, because the alternative to that job is so terrible that, and I've said, I've been unemployed. The alternative to being unemployed is anything which gives me decent wages, which from honest, hard work gives you wages, right? So that's the reason people do this. So let's recognize, let's not get too excited about, the involvement of government in some of these activities.
I'll just take one hook line from what you said when I go to Mr. Nikhil Dey. Something that Nitin Pai pointed out to is Indian economy works. Somehow it works. I don't know how it works, but if it's working, let it work. This is also something similar people say if things are not broken, don't fix them. But do you agree that the gig economy ecosystem in India is not broken?
So, Firstly, I'd like to say that Sheikh Saab I know very well, and for many years for the work that he's been doing. And he started off most of his work as an Uber driver. And there are hardly any unions, because one of the big problems with the gig economy is to build a union is extremely difficult. That he's managed to do it along with others is of great credit. Nitin Pai, I know of his work, Nitinji, but I must say that some of the things that he says, just as he says, I'm not a one-ism or the other, and I'm not some big capitalist supporter, here the question is not either of unions or of government. It's of a certain working relationship that has been defined by a set of people who are aggregators. They, in India, actually employ people almost full-time, but continue to say they are not employers, and continues to say that those people are not our employees. Okay, they have a certain set of arguments for them, because they say people are free to come and go, people are free to move one way or the other. And there are a set of things, and I don't want to go deeply into each one of these. I just think that some of the generic issues that Nitinji has raised, Nitin has raised, some of the generic issues that Nitin has raised don't actually apply to the gig scenario. Some ways they do, just as much as when he says people are unemployed, and this thing of voting with their feet, I have faced far too often. I come from an organization that works with rural peasants and workers, but then when we started working with the unorganized sector, that's where those workers turn up. They turn up in the unorganized sector in mining, they turn up in the unorganized sector in manufacturing, brick kiln work, domestic work, driving, running autos, doing whatever. So I've had a long association with lots of them, and that's how we turned up with the gig worker group as well. I think Karnataka stands at the crossroads. The minister, Santosh Ladji, is not here. When he comes, I would like to say that we need to congratulate them for what Nitin may feel is interference by government. I want to show why it's not. It's not interference. Yes, there is an intervention, but there is a very big difference between what is generically thought of as government interfering in something that's not broken, or interfering with a heavy hand in what is just essentially commercial activities. And I want to also lay out that I think there is a big opportunity to do something substantially different in terms of productivity, dignity, and making this sector work. Because just what you talked about, the frustration of young people, I think if you were to spend a little bit of time with Sheikh Ji, with the people Sheikh Saab with who he's with, you will see the quantum of frustration that's building up in what we think are comparatively happy gig workers. Many, many of them are not 8th and 10th standard pass. Many of them have done college degrees, and they aren't able to find jobs, just as you're saying. You've already laid out that they aren't able to. They are doing this because they think they're doing it temporarily, and they end up doing it permanently. And then they are intelligent enough to understand how all the tables are against them. And this set of laws, and I really want to say, I think Karnataka has a breakthrough law and a breakthrough set of rules, and because it has now notified the board, it's going to be the first one in the country that will actually implement it. And I'd like to lay it out for all of you, including Nitin, because as you said, you don't do this in your day job, but I do, day and night jobs. So I want to explain what it is that makes this different. This is a law that said, and where Sheikh, first time I heard Sheikh raise this particular quotation, which I think is a fantastic quotation. The Rajasthan law was being in a public consultation, and there were the government people sitting to see that is it something unfair that we are doing, and the entire aggregator group was sitting and saying, you cannot ask us for data. What is the law, firstly? The law is not government coming in with a heavy hand. It's a setting up of a tripartite board. Yes. A board on which there is labor, a board on which there is the aggregators themselves, and a board on which there is government. So all three are there on that board together. And what does the board do? The board in this particular instance has actually gone back. The Indian law, and this is quite unique, and other laws are beginning to learn, other countries are beginning to learn again about this, because it is very difficult to put an employer-employee relationship if someone may work for 2 hours one day or may work for 18 hours one day or 16 hours one day. To put that relationship is very difficult. But the worker must have rights because they're working 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours a day on that. So how do you ensure that those rights are there and of those workers? So the key point that Shaik was talking about is data. The aggregator does nothing except connect one person with another. There are hardly any people on the aggregator side. Their only thing is that they have come up with a particular mechanism to connect you as a consumer with someone else who is providing that service, and they are able to do that through essentially an app. So what is it that is happening? It's me, but it's my data that's running through. And when this law was placed, because the law said that the aggregators will have to provide all that who are coming through their app to the board, so that through that information they can add on some little money for social security and make sure that what is the pattern that's being followed is transparent. Transparent to whom? Now they said there is no way we can give this data. Data is privacy. We've now got a new DPDPA Act. We can't do it. And Shaik ji said, meri gaadi, mera petrol, mera diesel, mera samay, mera insurance, mera risk, mera data, mere se private. आप ये कैसे कर सकते हो? Because what does the board do? It essentially ensures that all that Shaik has done in a particular day as a driver, maybe on Ola, maybe on Uber, maybe somewhere else, flows into his ledger in the board, so that he sees that he gets his social security rights. Now, what are the three? I'll very quickly say. There are 3 rights that this law can give. It doesn't necessarily give, but the 3 rights that the law can give. Number 1, even the aggregators agreed to begin with, and that's how conversation about law began, that of course social security must be there. If they have an accident while driving and they get killed, or their leg is broken, or something else happens, all the things that we say are social security related to any worker, whether blue collar or whether working class or anyone else needs social security, yes, of course it needs to be given. Aggregators agreed. But we are doing it. But we all know how they are doing it. We all know, okay, one may be doing it great, 20 others are not doing it great. So you run around in circles behind them, and families are in a terrible shape. So you need a place that it can be ensured. But what else can that data do? The data can do the 2 other things. The 3 most important things for any worker are, firstly, their wages, their capacity to earn. Are they earning what is fair as per whatever work that they are doing? That is something that is not just the duty of government, it's not just the duty of that aggregator, it's the duty of all of us. That's why we are having this kind of discussion. So that first thing is the wages. That allows you, because that data flows through, to see what is the wages and how they are being dispensed. Number 1. Number 2, because that data flows through APIs into the board, into the ledger of the worker themselves, it allows the worker also to aggregate their data across platforms to see what is it as a composite whole they are doing. Number 2, it allows the social security. You're saying today in Karnataka, they have said 1 to 1.5%. Santosh Ladji, on your particular payout, you can see, Nitin, how much that would amount to, a minuscule amount. And so I would actually, if I had a chance, tell Santosh Lad, you should do much more than that. But anyway, he's come to his own calculation. Santosh Ladji, when he arrives, we'll discuss it.
I think he anticipated you'll ask this question. Unfortunately, he's returned to the assembly and he will not be joining this session.
Not be joining us, so I'll find another occasion to do that. But I have an occasion to say it in front of everyone else. That all it's saying is 1 to 1.5% of the payout. So if I'm getting 50 rupees as a Swiggy delivery person, out of that I will get what, 75 paisa into my thing that will go towards my social security. And the third is occupational safety. We've all seen that debate. Who came during COVID to allow us to work from home? Gig workers. Who comes in the rain? Gig workers. Who comes in the North Indian cold? Gig workers. Who is, and I would like to show you if after this I have two videos, one that I want to show, and if we have time, we'll show the other one. I want to show the one that's about, but I'll tell you, I'll just give you 2 minutes, just give me 2 minutes. So what I'm saying, Nitin, and to everyone here, and because we are sitting in Bangalore, and because we are in a South First dialogue, Karnataka and Telangana can actually use, and this is why I'm saying it's not government. Gig workers have been completely controlled by a digital whip. Yes. There is no, if there's no digital platforms, there's no gig work. So people who are aggregators are earning through digital platforms. Can digital governance actually work for people? And that's the model that Karnataka has shown. It does not require an inspector to go anywhere. It does not require anything else. It requires you to share your data and do what is fair. And if you don't do that, it allows you, just as you have been able to control workers, and there are millions of incidents of that. And I'll give you one example. Santosh Ladji said, how can you say he said, I agree that you're not an employer, they are not employees. Then how can you block an ID? How blocking an ID is firing someone. It's closing off their options. And you decide because there is something that you don't want. No, you offer the right to everyone. If they'll take it, they'll take it. If they won't, they won't. That's what your principle is. So it shows you the principle of what it is. And that's why it's not a question that opportunity that has come to us through the platform-based economy of being able to have a law that says we will just examine and let your data flow through as per the requirements. Yes, you will have to pay 1.5%, 2%, 3%. That is a requirement. But after that, actually, it is data that allows you to see, are you following it or not following it? And that's an opportunity that exists for Bangalore. That's an opportunity that exists for Telangana, for Kerala, for Tamil Nadu. These are the big gig economy places. There is much more I have to say about this implications for labor as a whole, but I'll say that later.
Sure. Just for the benefit of the audience, the law that Mr. Nikhil Dey is referring to was a law that was brought in by the Karnataka government. It's called the Karnataka Platform-Based Gig Workers Social Security and Welfare Act 2025. Insist that you please read on that law. Please go ahead, Mr. Pai.
Yeah. So, thanks. You know, I've gone through the bill. My argument about the labor board which has been put together in Karnataka is not that it's not required. It's inadequate. As you said, 1.5% of the deliveries, if you know, how are you going to use this to do social security, right? If you collect all this 1.5 million, or maybe you'll have 1,000 rupees a day or 5,000.
So we'll join together to say it should be more.
Well, listen. Yes, it should be more. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say, right? You just cannot make it work. Even if you buy insurance premium with the kind of money that the government has in its fund, I mean, you're going to get some 500 crores, 1,000 crores, which is not going to be enough to pay insurance premiums of all these people, right? So what you've gone and done, again, as I said, this is this reflexive reaction, so government se kuch karwa dete hain. And the government is good at taking money and delivering money, right? That's what governments do. You take money from somewhere and give it to somebody whom you deserve. That's the root of, most of the government work is just that, right? Moving money. And that's not enough, right? So what we've said, and this is a discovery which we made during COVID, is when people had healthcare bills to pay, or when people died during COVID, who gave them the money to tide over the difficult situation? Was it the employer? Sometimes, but not always. Employers probably said, we'll just give you salary, we won't give you anything more than that, right? If you had employer insurance, lucky people, yes, but other employers didn't do it. Did government give money for all of these people? No, government created COVID camps and healthcare, but no compensation, etc. It was just not, you couldn't pay that. Government doesn't have the kind of money to give money to everybody who suffered with. But how did India go through this thing? Because money came to each of us through our social networks. So when my domestic help had a problem, we passed the hat around, we could get money from people, and we made that happen, right? So Tagore says this, okay, and this is when I remember Tagore. He says this, in the state in India, through history, has never been interested in social security. The kings and the princesses, whether the British Raj or the princely states before that, were mostly interested in collecting taxes and fighting wars. They were not interested in providing social security or welfare to citizens. Who took care of welfare through, I mean, India is not 100 years old, right? India has been around for, hundreds of years. Who took care of welfare? It was society. People helped each other out. So the answer to your gig workers thing, and I would encourage you to look at the multi-contributor social security system proposal that we've put out, is to look at a common social welfare account which has many inputs. It could have inputs from the employer, it could have employers' own contribution, it could be from government, union government, state government, local government, it could have contributions from philanthropy, it could have philanthropy from CSR, whatever, right? So you look at an account, maybe your Jan Dhan account, where you have multiple inputs to it. And anybody can give money into this account. And if I'm a citizen who gives money, maybe I get a tax break or 80G exemption or whatever that is, right? So that is the way you'll be able to create social security for millions of people in India. The government-based system is not going to do it. I've done the maths. The maths does not add up.
So you may not have used the
I
term.
have one line to say.
Okay, no, just one point.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, okay? So the way that you've approached this entire thing is inadequate. Okay, I can bet you it's inadequate. Last one. You see, it's all very easy to say that, look, I have appointed Nitin Pai, he's a good government inspector, right? Nitin Pai is a government employee, he's a good guy. He behaves nicely, he won't do nasty things. Governments will change, officers will change, the law will remain. In 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, you'll see that law being used for entirely different purposes. We have seen this happening in this country. Many of the laws that have been put in place were put in place for very good reasons. But they are being used for entirely different things by different governments and different people. So Nitin Pai and Nikhil Dey might be around today, but 5 years later we might not be around. Then what happens, right? So just be careful of getting the government in. So all I'm saying is, it's all very nice to say that, government employee will ensure that this ID is not blocked. But how do I know that Nitin Pai knows that's the right guy, the idea should be blocked or not? And what is the basis on which he's making the decision? What if I give him 500 rupees? Maybe he'll open that thing? You don't know, right? So just be careful of government. That's all I'm saying.
No, I do have a follow-up question about what you just said, but I'm going to save it for later. But let me
just say one line, which is not in terms of argument, right? It's too much of a fundamental difference. I've spent too many years of my life working for laws that I think have helped people substantially, and those laws are being removed, unfortunately, and to great harm. But, and we'll more of that in that next session I'm going to be in. But I think this is one circumstance, and in this state also, and we heard even in the last session, where all these guarantees government is having to give. Why? Because we have people at such precarity. We have people in such precarious situations right across that we have to give them bus passes, we have to give them some amount of food, we have to give them, we're giving pathetic education, pathetic health, but we do have to give it because they have nowhere else to turn. And during COVID, I think people turned most of all to government, went to government healthcare places, and government dished out whatever, inadequate in my opinion also. But this is one law that does not ask government to give. This says it's part of my earning to get social security. From whom? From the market. If I am there in the market, it's the market's job to give me at least that much of my social security and that much of my wage so that I can lead a dignified life. That is something that, and therefore this law, unlike others, unlike our other social security provisions, whether pensions or anything else, is saying you get from there and you are able to then keep your own thing going. It's part of your whole package of whether you should be there as an industry or not. So
it's more of claiming one's rights than imposition of a cess?
No, it is an imposition of a cess. It is. But it's through claiming of rights from the market, not from the state. Otherwise, the state is busy. All those gig workers who, if they have an accident, where do they go? To the state. If they have something else, where do they go? To the state. Whereas then what is that aggregator doing if it cannot meet those adequate needs?
There were 2 points that from what Mr. Nikhil Dey and Nitin Pai said that I want to ask you, Mr. Shaik Salauddin. First, about how gig economy or gig-based apps are employment generators. He was talking about how when you have no job to do, any job is good. Any job that pays your bills, that takes care of your necessities is good. Second thing he spoke about is also how overall, as a country, we've seen that society has come together largely to help each other out whenever there has been dire situation. But is that situation, or rather that empathy, applicable in the case of gig workers as well? I have to give credit because I'm going to quote from the Indian Express report. I'm sure it was a very highly discussed report of a reporter who went on a gig working spree. On multiple apps, the reporter listed themselves as a gig worker and went on a gig working spree and documented how their entire experience was. One thing that also stood out for me, and I'm only asking this in a social context, as a community context, spoke about how there are separate lifts, no lifts. There is, of course, the question of dignity of labor is one thing, but do we actually respect people who are at the end of it giving us or offering us service, to be very fair, at very cheap prices? So, Mr. Salauddin, if you have inputs on it.
See, the platform companies, again I told that, just to go back, one comment, Nikhil Bhai. You know, the platform companies, whatever the social security schemes given, you know, the PR, only from that is PR. See, the Zomato CEO said 100 crores rupees from the, we are using from the social security, okay? The 10-minute delivery, the delivery boy has meted the accident, sometimes has go to hospitalized, admitted, not cashless hospitalized treatment, am I right? You are pay the own pocket, you have to treat it, and after treatment you have to bill pay, after you have to claim that insurance. This is not healthy, na? The delivery boy has own pocket as maximum 50,000, 1 lakh rupees minimum bill today's. अगर जब उसके पास 50,000 से 1 लाख रुपये अगर जब डिलीवरी बॉय के पास था तो वो डिलीवरी करने ही जाता ही नहीं था, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, नंबर 1. नंबर 2, जो 100 करोड़ की बात हो गई, 10 मिनट की डिलीवरी के अंदर नहीं आ सका तो 10 मिनट में उनका इंश्योरेंस नहीं आ सक रहा तो फिर फ़ायदा क्या है? उनके 100 करोड़ रुपए पॉलिसी पे लगा के फ़ायदा क्या है? उसके लिए जैसा निखिल साहब ने बोला कि गवर्नमेंट के अकाउंटेबिलिटी पे इसलिए आना पड़ा, सरकार को इसके अंदर बीच में लाना पड़ा कि आप दोनों के बीच में एक रास्ता बनाओ, क्योंकि प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनीज हैज़ मल्टीपल टाइम्स वी हैव रेडी टू सिट टुगेदर एंड डिस्कस. नो प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनीज हैज़ कम टू डिस्कस विद द यूनियंस. Now the fundamental rights to sit and discuss from the healthily in the unions. Why not? No one platform companies, you know, the 25th and 31st, we have to 5 days we are waiting. No one platform company sit together to discuss. So, now the platform companies, whatever the job creators, see some hotels, some restaurants, before that pandemic, per order you have to deliver 70 rupees. After 60 rupees, 40 rupees, 20 rupees, now you have 0 M. आप डिलीवरी रिटर्न लेके आएंगे तो भी आपको 0 पैसा मिलेगा. नो द प्लेटफॉर्म, यू नो द एवरी, हर एक की तनख्वाह बढ़ते रहती है, मगर डिलीवरी बॉय की तनख्वाह घट रही है यहाँ पर. एक दूसरा, जो रोज़गार बेरोज़गार की बात है, जहाँ पे रोज़गार पैदा कर रहे, जहाँ पे एम्प्लॉयमेंट हैज़ बी क्रिएटेड, बट एट द सेम टाइम डीएक्टिवेशन शुड बी वेरी, नो, multiple IDs should be blocked every day, every platform. You see the OD amount, some delivery boy has 4 लाख का कोई खर्जा बाकी रखता कोई प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनी पे. यू गो एंड सी माई ट्विटर हैंडल @TGPW. 4 लाख रुपए बैलेंस है, उसकी आईडी ब्लॉक करेगा थे. ये हंसने की बात है. 4 लाख रुपए प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनी का भी 4 लाख रुपीज़ तक बैलेंस, क्रेडिट बैलेंस रखता कोई प्लेटफॉर्म पे. इट इज़ पॉसिबल. दैट्स वे वी आर टोल्ड. यू नो, जैसा आप बोल रहे तो बड़े बड़े पैमाने पे आप क्या बता रहे, व्हाट यू कैन सेड. मेरे पास 4 करोड़ लोग एम्प्लॉय क्रिएट कर रहे हैं, हम लोग 4 लाख लोग को रोज़गारी दिए, बट आईडीज़ ब्लॉक करके कितने लोग को बेरोज़गार करे उसका हिसाब नहीं बता रहे, वो अकाउंटेबिलिटी नहीं बता रहे आप. तो जहाँ पे भी ये प्रॉब्लम्स रेस हो रहे वहाँ पे हम ट्रांसपेरेंसी की बात कर रहे. आप जॉब क्रिएट कर रहे बोल रहे, मैं जॉब क्रिएट करे सो जॉब के पास आईडीज़ ब्लॉक हो रहे और उनकी तनख्वाह घट रही, उसका भी तो हिसाब बताओ. जैसा यू नो द एवरी ईयर बैलेंस शीट, न्यू ईयर का 31st के दिन नाइट हो जाते ही 1st के दिन उन लोग का एक लिस्ट आ जाता कि वी आर सॉरी टू से कॉन्डम इतना बेचे, बिरयानी इतना बेचे, केक इतना बेचे, सब चीज़ इतना इतना बेचे, मगर वर्कर कितने घंटे काम करा, वर्कर की आमदनी कितनी हुई, वर्कर के लाइफ में क्या चेंज हुआ, दसरा आ गया, दीपावली आ गया, रमज़ान आ गया, बकरीद आ गया, IPL आ गया, आप तो दे दिए इंसेंटिव। हम वही इंसेंटिव लगातार पूछ रहे कि आप क्यों खाली वाई वी आर ओनली फ्रॉम फेस्टिवल्स, वाई नॉट रेगुलर। और वो पैसा किसका है? वी आर नॉट फाइट ओनली फ्रॉम द वर्कर्स, बिहाइंड ऑफ द कंज्यूमर्स ऑल्सो, क्योंकि कंज्यूमर पे भी अफेक्टेड है। रेन, बारिश पड़ गई तो 2x 3x क्या आपका रेट चले गया? क्या वो पैसा सरकार से वर्कर को मिल रहा? नहीं। कौन है बीच में? कंपनी है। पैसा वया टू उधर से आ रहा ना, मीडिएशन, ना कि प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनी डायरेक्ट मेरे को दे रही। तो ये चीज़ जो है कहीं ना कहीं हमारी जो लड़ाई है, जो वी आर फाइट बिटवीन दी प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनीज, ट्रांसपेरेंसी फ्रॉम दी कंज्यूमर साइड ऑनवर्ड्स। कंज्यूमर किसको दो? अरे डिलीवरी बॉय को तो 200 रुपये मिल गए, ओके, इंसेंटिव मिल गया 150 रुपया। 31st नाइट द प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनीज, यू नो द हाउ टू चीफ ट्रिक्स, जब उसकी कंपनी ओपन भी नहीं हुई उतना इंसेंटिव नहीं दिया पर ऑर्डर पे। इमेजिन 125 रुपीज़ पर ऑर्डर अप टू 150 रुपीज़। नो, नेक्स्ट डे 5 रुपये 10 रुपये पर ऑर्डर आ गया। एंड यू नो द हाउ टू PR द प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनीज, तमन्ना लाइक हैज़ कम टू यू नो द एड्स फ्रॉम 2 दिन आप प्लेटफॉर्म पे करो, 6,000 रुपये लेके जाओ। These all are, you know, muscle power, money power, PR power from the platform companies. The workers who was rightly from the livelihood from the workers, who was pain from the workers, who was unemployment, was a not to giving the any source of employed from the government and private places, कुछ करके जाएंगे रोजी रोटी के लिए। Those persons who has come the platform, शायद थोड़े लोग होंगे वो पार्ट टाइम के अंदर है, मगर 80% के लोग, यू कैन टेक इमेजिन मल्टीपल सर्वे रिपोर्ट्स, वो 8 घंटे के ऊपर काम कर रहे हैं। उनके बारे में सोचने चाहिए। इंडिया के अंदर गिग वर्कर का मतलब ये नहीं है कि पार्ट टाइम वर्कर है, यू नो द फुल टाइम वर्कर्स हैज़ डूइंग फ्रॉम द इन इंडिया मल्टीपल प्लेटफॉर्म्स, यू कैन गो एंड सिट, यू डिस्कस विद द वर्कर्स। दिस इज़ वी आर आस्किंग। एट द सेम टाइम दूसरा सवाल कुछ था आपका, सॉरी।
Mr. Nikhil, sorry, Nitin was talking about how society has always helped each other. So you don't need government interference or intervention, however we want to see it. So do you think it applies in the gig economy ecosystem?
See here, that's why we are behind over the, you know, the customers over gods. Okay, we are not believing from our platform companies. Platform company तो एक broker है, okay, simply not I am said, okay, प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनी बोल रहा है कि मैं मीडिएटर हूँ दोनों के बीच में, काम लगाना और लेना और उसका कमीशन खाना। बट दोज प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनीज हैज़ यू नो द गेम बिटवीन द वर्कर्स एट द सेम टाइम पैरेलली फ्रॉम द कंज्यूमर्स। एप्पल फ़ोन हो गया तो एक अलग रेट बताता, नॉर्मल फ़ोन रहे तो अलग प्राइस बताता। ये कहाँ से निकल के आ रहा है? ये कहाँ का कंपटीशन है? ये कहाँ का, कौन डेटा का इसका ट्रांसपेरेंसी, कौन इसके पीछे बैठ के प्लान कर रहा? और मेरा डेटा और मेरी प्राइवेसी आप कौन है जाके देखने वाले? यू नो द जोमेटो स्टेटमेंट है, यू सी लास्ट 2 years बैक, 10 मिनट डिलीवरी के बारे में आपका राय क्या है? ही सेड, ओपनली सेड, ही हैज़ अनाउंस, हमारे पास कंज्यूमर का डेटा है, आई नो वेरी वेल कौन बिरयानी खाना चाह रहा, कौन बीर पीना चाह रहा, कौन क्या खाना चाह रहा, सबका डेटा हमारे पास है। दैट्स वे वी हैव टू क्रिएट डार्क स्टोर्स। यू नो कौन पूछना, कौन उसका अकाउंटेबिलिटी कहाँ पे है? और मेरा डेटा बगैर पूछे कि आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते, वही वर्कर का डेटा वर्कर के वेलफेयर के लिए स्कीम्स के बनाने के लिए स्टेट गवर्नमेंट सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट पूछ रहा, तो वो डेटा नहीं दे रहे आप।
सो इन प्रैक्टिस when you use the term partner, delivery partner or driving partner, so captain, etc. So partner is only in name, not actually in theory. Let me just go to Nitin Pai quickly, because you spoke about how you don't need to keep bringing in government, because like you rightly pointed out, there have been a lot of good intentioned policies that were brought in as laws which have led to misuse when it has changed hands. But then how does an industry recalibrate, especially a new industry like gig economy? If you tell me that companies are going to recalibrate themselves, why would they do it?
See,
clearly they're not doing it now.
You know, when I moved back to Bangalore in 2012, I didn't see any taxis in the country, in the city. There were no taxis. It's a huge city, no taxis. Why? Because the auto rickshaws were a strong force, and they didn't want private taxis to be operating, right? And now to be an auto rickshaw driver, it was not easy. I actually spoke to people. It was not easy. You had to be Kannadiga, you had to be from the state, you had to be from so a guy from outside the, from Telangana couldn't come and ride a auto here. Why? Because these were all at one time measures like this inserted so that you want to, preserve, protect the local guy and all of that, right? But in time, in 10, 20 years, it became a device of exclusion. You excluded literally everybody else from the city. And consumers, those of you who remember taking autos, many of you are young here, but taking autos in 2012 is 1.5 meters, 2 meters, 500 rupees, anything there would be a lot of conversations and all of that. Now that auto rickshaw business is largely managed, right? Of course, it is still Kannadigas who ride autos. I think now they've changed a bit, but there's a whole lot of options for transport. It's because of the gig economy. Now you could dislike the middleman and broker and all of that. That's a point of view. That's a value judgment. You can believe that they are evil people. So other people might say they are good or evil. That doesn't matter. But they provide value, right? Now, the point I'm making is that law which prevented people from being auto drivers was initially put in place for certain good reasons. It became something else. What is to prevent the same thing from happening to gig workers? What is to prevent a bunch of people from Karnataka saying that, look, we should give preference to Kannadiga drivers, we don't want anybody from outside the state? And what if there's a government willing to listen to it? It can happen in Tamil Nadu, it can happen in Andhra, it can happen in Telangana, it can happen in Kerala. How can you prevent that, right? So the point is, don't create a hook which can be used against you. Right? Of course, a new government can always legislate and say this is, but don't make it easy. One small amendment and says, okay, only residents of this state can access gig working platforms. Outsiders are not allowed. Right? We are already talking about high nationalism, chauvinism of that, and it's very easy. All 4 southern states are very prone to this. It's not like I'm not making this up. It can happen anytime. Right? So even for example, we were talking about benefits. You still have situations today where migrants who come from other parts of the country can't access government facilities because your Aadhaar card is from a different state. Right. Although the government might say, no, these are available to everybody else. The person at the counter says, your card is from Telangana, you can't get facilities here. I've seen this. I've had to intervene in one particular case where, because they say, you can't take this because you're Telangana Aadhaar, right? So all of these things come in. And somebody said, government, I think you said government will give that benefit. Have you ever tried receiving anything from government? Have you ever tried getting money from government? Union government or state government? It is not easy. Right? There is a whole lot of political economy, whether it's 500 rupees or 50,000 rupees or 5 crore rupees, right? Getting money from government is not easy. So all of these things, we feel very happy that we have done something right, we have something good. It gives us a good sense that, we have been nice people. But you play it out and see when it meets the reality on the ground, it's not going to have that kind of results. So I'm very skeptical about these measures. I would rather go for a broader measure which brings all of society in. For example, and I'll give you something. Today, we have the technology. I should be able to go into a database and say, put 500 rupees into the bank accounts of all single women in 560101 postcode, right? And that available, if the database is available, I should be able to transfer that. So if I want to transfer, for example, 10 rupees into the gig workers, all the gig workers who live in 560101 in this zip code, pin code, I should be able to do that. We have that technology available, right? So why don't we allow you to do that? Let's say a kid has a birthday party, you can say, okay, birthday party, instead of doing, giving return gifts to your friends, now give 100 rupees to all gig workers in your area. And you should be able to do that. So we have that technology available. No, there are people ready to do that.
No, but that is the contention, that Indians don't like tipping. Forget contributing and donating. There is also this entire discussion when we talk about gig economy, how, because the service is so easily and cheaply available, one of the arguments was, why don't Indians just tip more? And clearly we don't see that as a culture.
You don't have to go, see, the point is you can't judge 10% good people by the behavior of 90% who don't, right? So let's say there are 10% of the people of Bangalore who want to give money and give support gig workers. Let them do it. Why are you now stopping it? Now in the current welfare board, there is no way I can give money into the welfare board. I can't.
So you suggest crowdfunding is a better solution than government intervention?
We are today in a place where it is very easy to set up a multi-contributor social security system. Everybody in a gig worker has a bank account, has a phone number, has an Aadhaar card. These are the 3 important things you need to set this thing up. Everybody has it.
Mr. Salauddin, I really insist on you that you catch hold of him after this panel and start a GoFundMe page for gig workers in Telangana and Karnataka, and he'll give you his commitment to start it. But Mr. Nikhil Dey has...
please do that, and I would like to see how much comes into it, and compared to how much is supposed to come to be able to service everyone who's there. I'm very skeptical. Nitin, it's a great idea. We are a terrible country. We are a society who, yes, there are very, very good individuals in society. We would not be, I have spent 40 years with people who work their skin off. It is not that they are lazy or anything else. They are unable to get their 2 ends meet. You talked about mining. I work in a state where there are 20,000 people who have silicosis, and their children are going into those same mines because they have no other alternative. I mean, there are too many examples, and we have too much inequality. The whole growth, I agree, growth, but where are we redistributing our growth is something that we should see. And I don't know, I would like to know from you of an example that is there to scale, that has allowed people, because of contribution and because of the goodness of everyone's heart, that's been able to happen.
Yeah.
COVID, I also saw.
COVID, you had all the GoFundMe meetings.
We can sit down with figures on COVID, how much the government managed to provide. If there was not NREGA, which was 40,000 crores additional provided, if there was not food security, which doubled its budget, how many people would have died? No matter how many notices we put up to please contribute. So anyway, that's something that can be a separate discussion. I would like to, the question you had asked is, are new jobs being created? Are those jobs being created with some level of dignity and security? I want to show a short clip, it's not a long clip. Now, gig work is also moving into the domestic workers sector. And this is a clip for a little while ago. Please, all of you watch, because many of you will have domestic workers in your homes, and that's entering the sector. And I'd then like to end with just one line that Piyush Goyal has said about things. Yeah. Piyush Goyal is not the right guy to end. No, but I want to, anyway.
You can now get a maid for 45 rupees per hour, and that too in 15 minutes by clicking a button on the app. Thanks to InstaMaid, the new service by Urban Company. But here's the crazy part. There is a hidden evil genius strategy behind it which can make them thousands of crores. Let's break that down. Every Indian household has the same maid problems. They never come on time. They randomly change prices. They disappear during festivals, and finding a reliable one nearly impossible. Urban Company already solved this exact problem with plumbers and electricians. Now they're targeting a market 10 times bigger, the maid service market. They've actually been testing this model quietly. First with bathroom cleaning, which worked brilliantly well. Now here's their genius strategy. This 45 rupee per hour, 15-minute service isn't about quick delivery at all. It's about letting you experience what professional maid service feels like. Think about it. You try the service once because it's so cheap. You notice the maid arrives exactly on time. They're professionally trained. They do everything properly. No shortcuts, no excuses. And once you experience this level of service, will you ever want to go back to your unreliable maid? That's when they'll introduce their monthly packages, just like they did with every other service. But the market opportunity here is insane. Over 50 million Indian households, each spending thousands on maid services every month, all completely unorganized. This isn't just another quick commerce play. This is about organizing India's largest unorganized market, and that's worth thousands of crores. Save this post if you're tired of daily maid problems, and follow for more breakdowns of genius Indian business strategies.
So this is the line Piyush Goyal said was when he was speaking about new startups, that when will Indian startups stop thinking of further exploiting cheap labor, and when will they start doing something and running after cheap labor, and when will they start doing something more substantial? Frankly, I don't know how many of us have maids in one form or the other, or domestic workers in one form or the other. I am firmly of the view that there are people who provide a huge service for all of society and don't get their due. And if there is any actually situation where they are unfairly treated, they are in a very unequal relationship in those particular homes and places where they are. So it's a question of this, if we are seeing everything from only our own particular convenience, I don't know who will start contributing more. I don't doubt there are some people who talk about endlessly how well they treat their domestic help, or how much they give them, or how much social security, but should not every one of them have rights? And that's, again, if you are a domestic worker and you will get into a law where, how many domestic workers have pensions? How many domestic workers someone will say, okay, we'll look after you in your old age? How many of them get, when they get sick, or how many of them can even go home? Think of all the many things. I'm saying this because it relates to you with people who you can relate to as human beings, many of you. So it's something that it's a very important, it's all, so many kinds of work are going into the gig economy. This entire, and I want to say that again, that in Karnataka there's an opportunity, and Nitin, we can sit on this a little bit more, on the law itself. It's an opportunity that is a modern opportunity. Why? Because just as the aggregators have used the digital medium to be able to earn, this is an opportunity for digital governance for the people, so that nothing more than making sure whatever you decide as a society should come to them for social security, should come to them for wages. We haven't got into the whole the algorithm discussion about how it's decided someone should get X amount for a ride or Y amount for a ride. Shouldn't they also be involved if they are partners in that whole exercise? But as an opportunity through that, just the fact that data can flow through to a tripartite board. It's not also that they don't have a voice, they have a voice there. It is a very big opportunity. I also would have liked to have said I want to acknowledge actually here Atik ji, who is in the next session, but he played a very big role in being able to facilitate this. And I think this board should be imaginative. It can be. It can do another thing that, for instance, there's a social security board in construction workers. It really doesn't work because it gathers thousands of crores from the construction companies, and then it goes around looking for registration from others who are there, and therefore you don't get the real construction workers. Here you can triangulate exactly who has worked and how much social security has come to their name, so you can do it much more scientifically, much better, much more logically.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful panel. I have time for just one question.
My question is, if gig workers are neither legally employees nor truly independent, is India's current approach of tweaking labor laws sufficient, or does the rise of platform work require a fundamentally new social contract between the state, platforms and workers?
Yes, please.
I think you nailed it. Actually, this is the point which was not made at all. See, with the rise of platform, from the platform economy, there's a structural change in the way we live, we work, and we do things. It's not 1989. It is not 1999. 2026 is a very, very different era. So we have to look at everything from the perspective of the future. If we are trying to look at ideas from the past and try and retrofit them and try and make them, they won't work. Because, see, for all of the flack which the companies get, and I'm totally with you, they have way too much power, right? And it's not just our guys, even Mr. Musk was standing behind Donald Trump, right? So you know how much political power platforms have. But they have that because they have fundamentally transformed human society. The way you consume things has changed. You have situations where today you're making an omelette, you run out of onions, and then you call Blinkit, and Blinkit brings it to you before you finish making your omelette, right? Now, you could say that, you should have gone to the shop and bought all those things together, it's your fault that you didn't. But people are now able to do that, right? So, I don't think we should put a value judgment on whether it is the right thing or wrong thing to do. But structurally, there's a change, and the policy frameworks that we put in must adapt for this structural change, rather than for, look at 1880s Indian Telegraph Act and try and sort of modify that for 2026.